Yes, people, welcome back to the 1894 for a brand new Manchester City transfer video. Now, the hot topic on everyone's lips right now is, will City sign a big dog striker in the summer? Me and Joe are going to talk about it right now. Let's get right into our thoughts. Right, Joe, the man himself, Fabrizio Romano, the transfer guru, has spoken on Manchester City and the striker conversation. He says Man City are in love with Harry Kane. Pep Guardiola is more than in love with Kane. I'm sure they will try to sign Kane again, or Erling Haaland, or Robert Lewandowski. They are three strikers they will try in the summer. Now, these are three strikers Joe, myself, and yourself have talked about quite a few times, some more than others. Obviously, we were linked with Kane in the summer, but there are also three very notable names, three players at very different stages of their careers. Haaland is obviously very young right now. He's at the very beginning of his journey. Kane is I think it's fair to say in his prime right now, and Lewandowski is coming to the end. So I think let's talk a bit about Lewandowski and the prospects first, and then we'll talk about the players individually after. So in terms of Lewandowski, yes, he is quite old right now. He is currently 33 years of age. His contract at Bayern Munich expires at the end of next season, I believe. But similar to Benzema, who we spoke about in a recent video, he's shown no signs of slowing down. Granted, yes, the Bundesliga is not the highest standard of football. If you don't agree with me on that, do let me know down in the comments. I just believe it's not the greatest. But with that much said, he's played 24 matches this season for Bayern Munich and scored 28 goals. That is not a sign of a 33-year-old striker slowing down. He's clearly keeping himself in good nick. He's worked with Pep in the past. Pep is obviously a huge admirer of Lewandowski. I think if we were to bring him in, it very much would be a short-term solution to our striker problem right now. Obviously, we're going through not so much a rough patch right now, but obviously we lost to Spurs, we drew at Southampton. I think we are struggling to score goals the way we usually would. Teams are setting up with a low block, playing five at the back, and our creativity isn't seeming to be flowing right now to break teams down. Players like the three players I've mentioned would help us, but Lewandowski would very much, like I said, be a short-term solution, Joe.
He'd be the short-term solution, as in we've already signed someone like Alvarez, and obviously Delap's getting a little bit of first-team football here and there, off the bench. He's just coming back to fitness. So you'd think if they were to go down that route, obviously we wouldn't know how much it costs because, well, yes, he's probably one of the best players in the world at the minute and maybe should have won the Ballon d'Or. Like you said, he's 33 and his contract's coming to an end soon. So who knows how that's going to turn out. I don't think Bayern are in any rush to lose him at all. And I think it would be, City would, essentially, if City were to sign Lewandowski, it would mean that they'd be putting their full trust in someone like Alvarez to come good and be the main man in a few years and have Lewandowski, have him as that stopgap, as sort of like Alvarez can learn under him for a couple of years while he's still performing at the top level. And then when he's sort of, and Delap, and then when he's sort of 35, 36, when he's in decline, we can let him go. And then you've got Alvarez there. I think that's the hope if you sign him. I don't see this being the situation. I think this is just talk to get a new contract out of Bayern, because I think Lewandowski's more than happy to just stay there, realistically. And I don't see it happening, but it's not the first time we've been linked to him. We have been linked to him before this season. I remember we did a video closer to January, probably in December, with his name in there. So, the rumours aren't going away.
Something to note, though, that has changed in terms of Bayern Munich since we did record that video is I have read stuff suggesting that Bayern Munich aren't happy with their financial situation. I don't know that they're in financial trouble or anything like that, but they are looking to offload some players, and that is true. I've read that from some credible sources. Whether Lewandowski is part of that frame of players they are looking to offload, I absolutely do not know. But the thing is, you're right. If he was to come in, he'd be a short-term solution. He'd be someone for the likes of Delap and Julian Alvarez to learn off, and then we'd have to hope that they come good. But listen, it's one to follow, Lewandowski. I don't see much coming from it. I think the next two players we're going to talk about are much more likely to become City players than Robert Lewandowski, based almost purely just on age. I can't see City signing a 33-year-old. But the next player we want to talk about is our favourite player. We love to talk about this guy because he attracts views, he attracts critics, he attracts attention. He's a big dog, big name celebrity now at the ripe age of just 21 years old. Says he's born in Leeds here as well, so he's an Englishman of some sort. But listen, Erling Haaland, Joe, is someone that we speak about quite a lot. He's someone I think the City fans are desperate for City to go all out for. We've got word recently that City have been in talks with Raiola or Haaland of some sort, that City are willing to break the bank and a wage structure to get this guy over the line. This is obviously, yes, it's going to be the most expensive one to do, but this guy's played 14 matches this season and he's got a bit of an injury issue, I think it's fair to say. I do want to throw that in there. The last 18 months or so, Haaland has had a bit of an injury issue, but nevertheless, he scored 16 goals in those 14 games, so he's still an absolute machine in the pitch. But just on that injury thing, I want to mention that since he signed for Dortmund, he's gone from being something like 6 foot to becoming 6'4". So he's going through a lot of growing. He's still a young man, even though we treat him as a prime player because we feel like he's been around for so long. He's still very much a young man. He's doing a lot of growing, so the injuries are possibly understandable. I think it's just great to see that we're still linked with this guy. I'm dreading the day that something comes out, Joe, saying City can't afford him or City pulled out of the Haaland race or someone else's has pipped us in the race. But it seems from the latest reports, we did a video about a week ago, it suggests that we are very much the favourites for this guy.
It seems that we are the favourites. How that'll turn out, and I will, we're going to have to wait for that one because, I don't think there really is any outright favourites. You can say City lead the race, but by how much? It genuinely could be as much as, he prefers to play in England or something like that. I don't know. We're never going to know realistically. He'll end up somewhere for some reason, probably money, because Raiola clients, they love a bit of money because of the man himself. But, I mean, he seems to pop up every few weeks. Every few weeks comes out that we've had meetings or, we can afford him or Madrid can't afford him or something positive like that. And you'll have a bit of negativity sprinkled in there, like Madrid are going for both Haaland and Mbappe and he prefers to live in Spain and stuff like that. So who knows with this one? It's so far from being complete. I know we're in March right now and he's supposed to be deciding his future in March, but I mean, it could just be as simple as all we'll know is, he's leaving. That could be it. That could be all we're going to get until the summer, which is going to be painful. It's going to be a long summer, most probably, which is mental considering it's a release clause. It is literally just one payment. I'd love him. I think he's the ideal solution because of how young he is and how good he is. The injury record is something that, you got to keep an eye on. He still is young. Still... Well, I hope he's not going to grow more. He's 6'4". He doesn't need it. He usually gets an injury every season. I usually hear about some sort of muscular problem. I think he tore a muscle like a year ago, maybe for Dortmund. It was out for like a month. It shouldn't be a problem. We've got players. I mean, prime example, Kevin De Bruyne. He usually gets a month out every season. He did it at the start of this season. He had it in our toughest run in last season. So I don't think it's too much to keep an eye on. If a player is that good, then I don't think it matters too much because if he's still going to hit like 50 goals a season, then I don't think it really matters.
I saw one source on Twitter, Zishan, the man himself. As always, you guys decide how credible each source is. We don't have a scale to give you, but he says that Raiola is looking for something like 60 million a year as a form of payment for Erling Haaland, and Zishan is saying that City have offered that, and that's something City are willing to do. Now, that would absolutely blow our wage structure out of the water. It is not the type of wages we have ever paid. Even though we are a very wealthy club, we have never pushed the boat out that far. So that is something to keep an eye on. It's obviously something that's very important to Mino Raiola, is securing as much money as possible for the sale and wage of his player. But then again, I still think deep down something tells me inside that Raiola, Alfie and Erling all do firmly believe that this is the best option, and they're just at the moment naming other clubs and throwing things out there to get the most money out of City, and then they'll let him come to the club because he is absolutely the most obvious option for us as a number 9. He's an out and out number 9, something we don't have. Obviously Liam Delap is an out and out number 9, but he's not being given the chances for one reason or another, even though recently I've called for him to be given a chance. Erling Haaland is the obvious option. It's just a whole thing of finances, really, and I think he wants to come. I think he'd be silly not to come, but we will continue to follow Haaland and we'll continue to follow the story because it's one we enjoy covering, and I think you lot enjoy covering too. But we'll move on to our final player that Fabrizio Romano has touted us to be linked with, and that is, of course, someone we know all too well, Joe, isn't it? It is Harry Kane. Now, he is not having the same season that Lewandowski and Erling Haaland are having. Haaland obviously has a lot of injury. He's still beating Kane for goals, granted, not as hard to lead, but Kane has played 24 games so far in the 2021-2022 season, scoring just 8 goals. Now, I would sit here and say, listen, he's not good enough anymore, or his head's not in it, but he is after just slapping us in the head he had last week, isn't he? So there clearly is still a quality player in there. And he looked great against Leeds as well. I watched a bit of him against Leeds. There's absolutely no denying that Harry Kane is a fantastic player. He's got a huge amount of ability, and he is slightly different to the other two players we spoke about, Lewandowski and Haaland. Kane is very much capable, and we know he loves to drop deep and get involved in the build-up play. He likes to almost mix an out-and-out number 9 with a sort of Kevin De Bruyne role. You know, he likes to drop deep and spray balls around for wingers and on-running attackers. And obviously he can do the number 9 bit where he's a poacher in the box. So this guy, I can see why the quote here is that Pep Guardiola is more than in love with Kane. I can see why Guardiola would be very much attracted to a player like Kane who offers that much to the team going forward in terms of goals and creative build-up play. But then again, this guy's 29. We've gone from before. And then there's just a small matter of dealing with Daniel Levy again. I think Kane's contract runs out, is it 2 years from this summer, Joe?
Yeah.
So 2 years from this summer, Levy still has a little bit of leverage there. Obviously, it's not the same as last summer where it was 3 years and Levy could literally just say, I don't care about the money. But is it going to be worth Levy's time? Is he going to be willing to take a bit of money or take, I don't know, maybe 75, 80 million, somewhere in that region for Harry Kane this summer? I'd be very surprised if City were willing to offer 100 million for 29-year-old Harry Kane, who's only got 2 years left in his contract, but we know how stubborn Levy is. This is a tricky one in its own right. It's not. They're all really tricky signings, particularly Haaland and Kane, but this one's tricky in its own right because we've been here before, Joe.
Yeah, just this deja vu, really, isn't it? I mean, you've got to deal with Levy, which is no easy task whatsoever. We've dealt with him before. We got Kyle Walker off Spurs. That's only because he desperately wanted out. He forced his way out. Kane kind of forced his way out by not turning up for the start of the season, but then didn't go full heart and, you know, refused to turn up and, you know, put his foot down and get out. He was too respectful to Spurs. So that gave that gave Levy the higher ground. He had all the power there, essentially. And if we didn't cough up the money, we didn't get him, and we didn't cough up the money. But, I mean, it's going to be difficult. Obviously, you can say he's technically buying off one of our rivals. Spurs never win anything, so the rivals, I don't really know. They just tend to turn up and beat us every season. Yeah, I mean, we saw in that game against Spurs, we really struggled with how deep he dropped. Our defence was all over the place in that game. I don't think we picked him up whatsoever. I mean, he scored twice, so there's your proof that we didn't pick him up whatsoever, not even in the box. He'd be a focal point. I think he's in between the Haaland and Lewandowski. He's still got a few more years left at the top level, more than Lewandowski, given his age. But he's not got too long left. He could still be, you know, a mentor to the likes of Alvarez and Delap, albeit, again, he'd be around longer for Lewandowski. So it's like the most balanced solution, Kane, but I'd probably say the most complicated out of the three. I mean, again, like you said, he'd not only supply goals, he'd supply creativity, which is always nice to be able to have. He'd get involved in the play. We'd still play very, very, very good football because play with a false 9 right now. We'd drop into similar positions from time to time. So, again, it's probably not the most logical. Obviously, the most logical is Haaland because the potential for him to be around for 10 years, scoring 40, 50 goals a season is just too good to pass up. But Kane is sort of the second best here. He's the middle ground. But again, it's Levy.
I think if we are not to get Haaland, I think that the attention will automatically turn to Harry Kane. You know, with quotes like this, that Pep Guardiola is more than in love with Harry Kane, there's no doubt that he is on Pep's and the club's radar. Now, if we do decide for one reason or that we can't get Haaland and we are going to go balls to the wall again for Harry Kane, once again, I think it solely comes down to Harry Kane. And I think you'll see a different mindset from Harry Kane this summer than what we saw last summer, especially if Tottenham don't get top 4, which I personally don't think they will. I think it's between Arsenal and Man United and probably West Ham in some shape or form to get top 4. So if Tottenham don't get top 4, Harry Kane's going to say, I'm 29, I've won absolutely nothing, I'll be 30 next year, and City are in for me again. I think Harry Kane's mindset will change and become more aggressive. Obviously, yes, he in some shape or form tried to force his way out of the club last summer, didn't he? but I think it'll be even more aggressive this summer, almost the way Kyle Walker did it back when we got him. He really forced his way out. He wanted to come to the City, which was the right thing. Look at him now. He's won trophy after trophy, and Spurs have won nothing in the meantime. So for Kane, he's going to have to. He's going to have to, if we go in from, really force his way out and put pressure on Levy to accept less than 100 million. I don't usually really give a shit about how much we pay for players because it's not my money. I don't really buy into, you paid this much for that player, that much for that player, unless I'm bantering other clubs, but it actually doesn't bother me in the slightest. But I would be semi-disappointed if City were to pay in excess of 100 million for Harry Kane at the, coming on 30 at that point, really, with 2 years left on his contract. What do you think about that, Joe?
Yeah, I mean, I'd be disappointed as well, considering it just feels like, why didn't we just pay it in the first place? If we were, arguing over that sort of money in the summer, I mean, we were told that we just couldn't, properly afford it. It wasn't a sensible decision to go and pay the money. It just feels like we've waited a year for nothing. He's 1 year older. He's come off probably one of the worst seasons in his career. I don't know, in his Spurs career anyway. He's definitely not as good as last season. Like, his stock has dropped massively. I think if we're paying anywhere near excess of 100 million, 120 million like it was last summer, I think we've waited a year for nothing. It's pointless not getting him.
Yeah, look, it's a tricky one. All these three are tricky ones. I think myself and Joe and the rest of you, if you're City fans, firmly stand in the camp that you want Erling Haaland. But then again, I wouldn't be disappointed to sign Harry Kane. I don't know how I'd feel about Lewandowski, talented player, but it's probably a bit late in the day. But I'd take Kane, I'd take Haaland. Primarily, I want Haaland. Let us know your thoughts down in the comment section on who you would like and what you think about these links and these quotes from Fabrizio Romano via 5 UK. I want to add as well. But before you go, I want you to do me 2 favors, please, if you would. Hit the like button, it helps us massively, and subscribe if you are new to the channel. If you like our content, it really, really helps us. We're on the road to 1.9k, and then we're on the home stretch to 2,000. So we really appreciate all your support recently. We hope it continues, and we'll see you very, very soon. Good night. God bless.